Update. I've just found out something about my male 26 girlfriend, female 26 of 3 years, and it's changed my whole view of her and our relationship. Original post. This is made worse by the fact that even though we've only been in a relationship for 3 years, we've known each other since we were 3 years old and been best friends our whole lives. I bumped into her ex-boyfriend on a night out, who she was with before me when we were in college. They dated for about a year and a half, and we were friendly enough, I guess, but I didn't see or talk to him once they split up. It was pretty awkward, but I told him I was in a relationship with her. He was surprised and responded by asking if she ever told me the reason that they had broken up. I remember her being upset and saying he had dumped her, but that's about it. He told me the real reason was that he caught her cheating on him with one of my other good friends. This has completely shocked me, and I'm not sure how to feel. I'm still good friends with the guy, and I never had any idea that this happened. The ex told me he started suspecting something was going on, and snooped on her phone expecting to find out it was me she was cheating with, but found all the messages and pictures/videos between her and my friend. I don't know how they could have kept this from me, and now all these things are going through my head. The ex said when he found out that they had been sleeping together for at least a month, but I have no idea how long it went on for. I know this happened before we got together, but the fact that they never told me and fact that she has cheated has really messed with me. I haven't been able to talk to her about it yet, but she knows something is up, so it's coming. Any advice on how I should approach this? Now for the top advice before reading the update. If it was anyone else she cheated with, I'd be leery, but fine. With a good friend of yours? And neither of them ever told you that they used to bump uglies on a regular? That's fishy AF. I know, that's why I'm kind of freaking out. I would tell her calmly that you bumped into the ex, and tell her what he said. It's best to get the conversation out in the open. He could be lying for all you know, and be trying to stir things between you. Tread carefully. If you go into the conversation too defensive, then I can see it won't go well, especially if the ex is lying. Just stay calm. Okay, thanks. Ask the friend first, more likely to get a direct answer. He might even have evidence still. This gets my vote. He's less likely to have a reason to lie, unless it's still going on. He probably hasn't said anything to Opie before now because he's been asked not to by the girlfriend. Question. If you are good friends with this other guy, I assume you all still hang out. Are you worried because your friend and her still see each other regularly? Are you concerned she may hook up with him again? Yes, I'm still good friends with him. I'd be lying if I said I'm not worried about them seeing each other regularly, but I think because of all the unknowns. If they had a relationship I know nothing about, how long did it go on for? And what feelings did they have for each other? If she cheated on her ex, she must have liked my friend enough to do that. I'd be most worried that she potentially had a relationship with one of your good friends, and neither of them brought it up. If they did hook up, it seems fishy they wouldn't raise it, and to me adds truth to her ex's story. Why else hide it? As others suggested, you have a valid reason to bring it up, running into her ex. Just do it calmly without accusing, and have an open mind. Hey Opie, an undisclosed prior relationship with one of your good friends is a big red flag if true. You need to have a conversation with your friend right away. Is it true? If so, why didn't he tell you? What was their timeline of interaction? How did it start and end? When you talk to her, ask her the same questions. Compare their answers. If they both deny, then it's possible that the ex is some psycho, but highly unlikely given that he ended the relationship with her. If she was a cheater, then that is red flag number 2. While people can grow, the issue with cheaters is generally their need for validation and lack of respect for relationships and their partner. She's already showing a respect issue through a non-disclosure. Don't be surprised if you find out they're still in contact with each other. Sorry for the situation, hoping for the best for you. Edit. Thanks everyone for your advice. Sorry I haven't been able to respond to everyone either, but I've read every comment. I've decided I'm just going to talk to her about it this weekend. Even if there is something she hasn't told me in the past, I don't think she will be able to lie to my face if I ask her about it. Now for the update. Just wanted to start by thanking everyone for their responses. And sorry haven't responded to everyone, but it's a rough week. I spoke to my girlfriend and she confirmed that they were sleeping together, and she did cheat on her ex with him. She said it wasn't a good period of her life and things weren't great in her relationship, but that's no excuse to do what she did. She never told anybody because she was embarrassed, and then when the prospect of us being together happened, she was afraid I would reject her if I knew. The worst part is that she admitted that about 5 or 6 months into our relationship after a night out, my friend started messaging her and things got inappropriate. By inappropriate, she meant that my friend tried to get her to invite him over. She said no, but they did talk about their time together, which was definitely messed up. The next morning, she messaged him and told him not to contact her again, and there has been nothing since. She said she's deleted everything, but she can probably recover the messages to prove she's telling the truth, but that some of the stuff will be hurtful for me to read. I don't know if I want to read that. So that's it. My friend is a complete piece of trash, and I'll be having nothing more to do with him. I don't know what I'm going to do about her. Our families are very close, and are both devastated as well. The whole thing is a freaking mess. For the sake of clarity, I take her up on reading those messages. Better to get the whole picture before deciding. This is the best response. She's only feeding him half-truths in the hopes he just takes her word for it. Guarantee she sends spicy photos, etc. too. She's trickle-truthing him. He better expose her and his friend and leave that circus behind. Opie doesn't want the truth. He wants a piece so he can continue the illusion that she's true blue. If he wanted the truth, he wouldn't have run straight to her and swallowed whatever she told him on the spot with zero proof. Personally, I wouldn't be able to trust a partner who cheated on her previous ex with someone who I considered a friend, then lied about the breakup with her previous ex, and for 3 years, kept that information hidden. What happens the next time she supposedly hits a rough patch in her life, or when things in your relationship aren't great in her view? Exactly. I don't believe the whole once a cheater, always a cheater thing. But if your previous relationship ended based on cheating, own it. Don't hide it. Hiding that stuff means that you never actually changed. Agreed. Context and getting the full story is the most important. If they were upfront with you about the past cheating, including the uncomfortable details, it bodes way better than them not telling you about it, and you finding out later. Read it. I think she is trying to set you up to not read it. Call the bluff. It will hurt, but you need all the facts before you make a decision. But at this point, I don't see how you can trust her at all. Or just quit the relationship. If there's no trust, what's the point? Opie, there are still plenty of single, kind, and attractive women out there your age. If you keep living like this, you'll end up a drug addict hiding from his own mind. Even if Opie is willing to work past her lying about cheating on her ex and lying to him all these years, she still let him continue to be friends with an a-hole that was trying to stab him in the back, to do him harm, all for the sake of covering her own back. Of course, she was afraid of how you would judge her. Of course, she was worried that you would break up with her. But instead of doing the right thing, she doubled down and made things much worse by creating new lies of omission, and again, all for the purpose of protecting herself over you. The drama and deceit of cheating on her ex didn't end with him. It continued with you. End it. It'll be painful, but not as painful as looking in her face every day and remembering the lengths she went to lie to you and protect herself over you. Last story. Found videos of my 23 male girlfriend, 21 female of 3 years, doing it with her guy best friend. Not really sure where to start. My girlfriend and I met at a fast food restaurant back before COVID happened. When COVID happened, we both spent the entirety of 2020 at home together, which allowed us to bond at a much faster rate than most, I guess. We were together 24/7, and we both loved it and never got sick of each other. She was my first love, and we both made it known early on to commit to each other and never go through each other's phones. We talked about our future plans and our intimate life and what we liked. We told each other everything. She went as far as to tell me how many people she had slept with in the past, and I witnessed her cut contact with any people in her past which tried to hit her up. She told me about this one guy friend and how they had slept together one time, but it was only a one-time thing. Okay, cool, but I made it known I didn't really feel comfortable with her keeping in contact with him. and she said she didn't want to if it was making me uncomfortable, so she started ignoring him. I even witnessed him hitting her up and her telling him to stop talking to her. Fast forward through an insane amount of good memories made, music listened to together, trips taken together, thousands of pictures between the two of us, lots and lots of heartfelt gifts from her to me, such as DIY boxes you see on TikTok of pictures and candy and stuff like that. She even spent hours coloring a picture and wrote a long message on the back about how she felt about me. And when she gave it to me, told me how each of the colors had a meaning. I cried tears of joy because the fact she put in so much work and thought into my gifts. It's hitting me hard because I never really went as far or as thoughtful as she did when it came to gifts. We never really fought at all. Of course, the occasional argument here and there, and some were worse than others, but I just knew she was going to be the one I married. We told each other countless times how we wanted to get married one day and grow old together and take care of each other until the end of our days. She seemed so genuinely happy, and I actually was genuinely happy. She was my everything. We were both super clingy, so the fact we could just lay there together and be content was perfect. I never caught her lying to me throughout the whole relationship. Ever. So the other night, I go over to her place and she lies about something small that I knew she was lying about. I committed to the argument because I knew she was lying. And then I started to wonder, if she lied about something small, then what else is she lying about? I immediately asked to see her phone. And when I loaded up Snapchat, I saw where a month ago she had received a message from the guy best friend. I asked, "You still talk to him?" She said, "No, not really. He always texts me, but I ignore him." I clicked on the profile and scrolled down to the saved pictures, and I was frozen. Pictures of her face and the previews of saved. I viewed all saved, and there it was. Recent spicy photos and sexy pictures from her to him. My body felt like a wave of vibrations covered me from head to toe. I was in complete shock. I couldn't believe it. I asked, "What are all these?" She said, "I'm so sorry, babe. I was drunk. I didn't mean to." I scrolled some more and found a recent video of him doing her from the back, and her just laying there in the bed after it was finished. I was traumatized. I didn't know what to say or do. I stayed calm throughout the whole thing, I guess, because of the shock. But she was bawling the whole time saying she didn't mean to, and she was drunk and this and that. She said she thought she was just going over there to smoke, but he started coming on to her and it just happened. I asked why she would even put herself in that situation to begin with, and why she didn't stop it when or before it was starting. I also kept asking why she kept in contact with him this whole time, and she just said because she thought he was a good friend to talk to whenever I wasn't around, which was rare since we were together so much. I didn't care anymore. We were done. I stayed for a while just trying to figure out why she would do this, and she never tried to blame it on me. She said it was her own fault, and that she ruined everything and that she feels like a terrible human being. Fast forward a couple days, the anxiety is starting to hit me extremely hard. All throughout the day, just constant anxiety. I've went through and hid all pictures of us. I put away the gift she gave me. I deleted so many songs that I'll probably never be able to listen to again because it triggers my anxiety. I've never had anxiety prior to this. I love this girl with everything I had, and she betrayed me through all of our happy and sad memories. I have called her a couple of times over the past couple of days just to try and get more clarity. And now she says it's multiple small things that added up to her doing it, such as me not hyping her up as much as I used to. I just want to call her and just hear her voice, and I don't know why. I feel empty and sad with no motivation to do anything. Not my business, my job, my YouTube channel, none of it. I don't know what to do because I loved her so much, but the fact she chose to keep in contact with him and even go as far as to hook up with him destroyed me. Now for the advice. Yeah, man, don't listen to her. She's just lying to save face. She cheated on you, and you should dump her and move on. I already dumped her. It's just the moving on part I'm stuck on. She's been my whole world for the past 3 years. I don't know why I want to even talk to her or even stay friends. I really don't know. Nah, just go full no contact. She betrayed your trust. You already know you can never trust her again, and that she has no problems with lying to your face. It shows she has no respect for other people, and she's a crappy person that you shouldn't want to affiliate yourself with. As far as moving on goes, it gets better with time. I recommend surrounding yourself with friends and family for the next few weeks to avoid spending time alone with your thoughts. Eventually, when you are in a future relationship, you will look back on this and think, thank God that happened and I was able to split up with her, because I would have never met this awesome person that I love so much. I know from experience. Sorry, my man. This sucks. It is perhaps the double-edged sword of knowing versus not knowing the details when you find out. My advice how to handle this is to treat it as you would a death in your family or friends. You are allowed to mourn and cry and rage and be empty because something you had and someone you loved is permanently dead. And so many of the things you've done and love are tied intimately to that experience. In truth, your brain handles breakups the same way as it does death, grieving along the same neutral pathways. And it's entirely normal, perhaps even important, to mourn this relationship. And part of mourning is letting go. Your relationship and a person you thought she was are dead and buried, and you have to treat them like they are. If you keep those threads going, the ghost of this relationship will eat you alive. What's important is that, like all momentous momentary trauma, it creates a permanent soreness. And right now, you feel it all over. It will be the first thing you think of when you wake up, and the last thing you think of before you go to sleep. The only goal is to let these feelings flow through you and to get to the point where it's the second thing in the morning and the second to last at night. Doing that is hard because wallowing is easier. It's important for you to force yourself to do things. To eat, to go to work, to hang out with friends, to do the things that made you happy even before she came along, and to see, slowly, if the things you found together are things you can enjoy by yourself. Doing so gives you a way out of the rut. Things to focus on that aren't mourning, that pull your eyes away from the images in your head. And in the hope of saving a fellow young man from the tragedy of young men, like being lonely and not feeling their feelings, be aware that when something hits that soreness again, it will hurt, possibly as bad as it does now. That soreness is going to be with you for the rest of your days. And that's okay, because it'll become just as much a part of you as every happy, awkward, or terrible story you've lived, or any scrape or bruise or break you've experienced. The benefit of time is that it expands the surface of your experiences and makes the sore spot smaller and smaller every day by comparison. Good luck. Long is the road and hard that out of darkness leads up to the light. Update. Am I the a-hole for cutting off my mother-in-law after she made a joke about poking holes in our condoms? Original post. I, 38 female, have been with my husband James for 4 years. We're both child-free and don't plan to have kids in the future. When we first got married, we explained this to our families. My family was fine with it, but his wasn't, especially my mother-in-law. I'll call her Mary for privacy. She is passive-aggressive, or outright tells us we'll change our mind soon. For example, she'll say things like, I can't wait to be a grandma, even though we've made it clear that we don't want children. If we try to respond, she just pretends not to hear us. This has made me very uncomfortable, and I've told my husband multiple times, but he just brushes it off, saying she'll accept it eventually. However, things came to a head recently. James was hosting a dinner party and invited his family as well as mine. While we were eating, my mother-in-law jokingly said, You know, I've thought about poking holes in your and James's rubber so I could be a grandma. It's so smart and you'd never know. Before laughing. I was horrified. After that, I excused myself and left the house. James followed, saying I was being dramatic and that it was just a joke. I told him it wasn't funny and asked what would happen if she actually did something like that. We argued for a bit before he stormed back inside and I drove off. I've since blocked my mother-in-law on all social media and deleted her number. Now the whole family is furious with me, calling me sensitive and paranoid. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Mother-in-law's comments, including the one about the rubbers, have all been way over the line and squarely in the none of your business category. Your husband should have handled this with his mother quite a while ago. Now he has no choice. Tell your husband the reason you have gone to the lengths you have gone. Leaving the dinner, blocking his mother in social media, and deleting her are all because he is failing to safeguard you from her. This is his responsibility because it is his mother. He needs to stop brushing it off. He needs to go see her face to face and say, Mom, you are hurting me when you press us for grandkids. We are not having children. That's my final decision. You need to stop mentioning it to either one of us. By mentioning it at dinner, you cross the line and you need to apologize. To never speak of us having kids in front of us again. Yes, but he won't confront mom. I think you need to tell him with his threat from mother-in-law. Either he needs a vasectomy, minor surgery, or you need to get your tubes tied, more invasive surgery. It's an easily fixable situation, Opie. Tell hubby to get the snip. His reaction will tell you why he won't shut his mama down. You're not being sensitive, you're being sane. That's not a joke, it's a threat. And your husband needs to get his head out of his butt. If he won't stand up to his mom, he's part of the problem. Get that snip, Opie. You deserve better than this. Question: why don't one of you get fixed if you're adamant on not having kids? It's my husband who refuses to get a procedure done. I've already offered to get my tubes tied and other procedures, but he says he's not ready yet and doesn't want me to get surgery either until we're both ready. We're referring to him, because I'm only waiting on him right now. He wants kids. Yep, he's on his mommy's side. Completely. Now for the update a few days later. After everything that happened, I had a talk with my husband last night about wanting him to take a stronger step toward our commitment to being child-free. I told him that unless he got a vasectomy or a similar procedure, I wouldn't be comfortable sleeping with him. I want him to show he can stand up to his mother and that he is as committed to being child-free as I am. Although honestly, I started doubting that after posting the first story. Not in a rude way, of course. My husband said he still wasn't ready and that I was moving too fast. He added that by asking him to stand up to his mother, I was essentially asking him to disrespect her for my sake. At that point, I asked him directly if he wanted kids or not, telling him to stop beating around the bush because I would divorce him and disappear if he didn't. That finally got him to open up, and he admitted that he did want kids, and had secretly been hoping for either an accident or that I would change my mind, just as many of you in the comments had predicted. But what really shocked me was when he confessed he'd actually considered tampering with our birth control before, but just hadn't done through with it yet. It now made sense why he only wanted to use rubbers for our birth control. After that, I told him that, as of now, our marriage was over and that I would be filing for divorce as soon as possible. I made sure to tell him that any child I could have had would never be in his or my mother-in-law's grasp. He tried to protest, but I was firm on leaving. Honestly, he was planning to baby trap me. Nice try, but not with me. Right now, I'm staying at my sister's house. I'm planning to find a lawyer to start the divorce proceedings, but I know I can't go back to that house with him or my mother-in-law involved in any way. This entire situation has left me feeling very shaken and worried. Why? Just why? Why would you get into a relationship with someone who doesn't want kids if you want kids? I cannot understand people like this man. How stupid it is to get into a relationship hoping your partner will change their minds. These are stupid people. Planning on tampering with birth control? Now that's just diabolical. My ex-husband thought I will change my mind. I made extra sure current husband also didn't want kids, been together for almost 20 years now and child-free. Now hold on a second. If he tries to change your mind about divorce, tell him that you'll stay on the condition that he signs the form for you to get your tubes tied. Either way, you'll get divorced, but at least you won't have to worry about kids in the next relationship because you'll just let them know your tubes are tied. He'll probably end the marriage or cheat on you and get some dumb broad pregnant. That's freaking genius. The fact that you have to have a husband sign off on it is utterly stupid. But this is one way to get it done. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my wife spend money on her best friend? My wife has known her best friend since middle school. Her friend is a lawyer and her family's quite well off. She makes a lot and is generous with it. My wife has had a few things paid for by her friend. Specifically, she covered my wife's portion of her bachelorette trip because the other friends didn't make much and she covered it. She also paid part of my wife's rent twice, and she usually picks up the bill when they go out for food. This friend is now marrying a doctor, and I don't think they have any trouble paying for anything they want. My wife is a stay-at-home mom, and I'm a mechanic. I recently brought home a $3,000 bonus, and when I told my wife, she immediately started talking about buying her friend a really expensive necklace from a brand she knows her friend wants. She showed it to me, and the cheapest necklace is $2,000 on a website. She insisted I should spend the bonus on a wedding gift for her friend. I shut her down and told her it's my bonus and that she can't expect me to buy her friend something this expensive. I don't think wedding gifts should even exceed $100. She began arguing, saying that I spend money on lunches out and hobbies that cost a lot. So why can't she spend some money on a gift for her friend? I do spend a bit on my hobbies and have 2 cars, but I also work hard. Plus, her friend and her fiancé, who is a doctor, already own a house while we were still renting. I told her she was being unreasonable, and she insists we sit down and tally everything I've spent on myself in the last year. If it's higher than $2,000, she thinks I should pay for the necklace. I think it's ridiculous to compare my spending to an extravagant gift for her friend, and I'm refusing to let her buy it. She insists her friend has spent a lot on her and argues that we saved money because her friend pays for meals and activities whenever they go out, so it doesn't come out of our money. I get that the unbalanced relationship isn't ideal, but my wife could decline expensive outings if she wanted to even things out. Now, she's refusing to talk to me, and I'm wondering if I'm the a-hole here. Not the a-hole for refusing to buy your wife's friend an expensive gift that costs more than half of your $3,000 bonus. However, you may be the a-hole if there's an unequal distribution of money and limited input from your wife on how it's spent. When one spouse stays at home, the breadwinner can't lay total claim to the income. It's not my money versus our money. Supporting a stay-at-home spouse requires more than just covering basic needs, while unilaterally spending on hobbies and multiple vehicles, especially if you're also frustrated about renting instead of owning. Your wife has a valid reason to question your cumulative fun money expenses. If you're genuinely concerned about whether you're the a-hole, it could help to sit down and tally up everything you've spent on yourself this year. You might find she has a point and that you're spending significantly on yourself while she gets very little. Some might even see this as financial control, considering the power dynamic in play. As the breadwinner, you hold much of the leverage. The devil is in the details. Without the history or context, OP is obviously not wrong. But these kinds of posts tend to hit on other concerning things that could be worse than what he is defending himself from. Not guaranteed at all, but this should raise a few eyebrows at least. The devil is in the details. For sure, it always is. But this definitely raised my eyebrow. It sounds like the necklace is really a straw man argument for a much bigger gripe his wife has about how finances are split. OP, my husband was a stay-at-home dad when our boys were young because I generated a significantly larger income from my growing business. And we agreed that as long as the kids were with one of us, it didn't matter who. After we had twins, they went to daycare 1 day a week because he literally had his hands full. From the start, we agreed on an equal amount for hobby money/fun money for each of us, despite our income disparity. We could spend this money as we wished. It was where birthday gifts for each other came from. All other money was considered joint funds for bills, savings, pensions, etc. My question to you is, why do you believe you deserve hobby money because you work hard, but your wife doesn't? Believe me, I worked 16-hour days in the beginning getting things off the ground, and even with just one child at a time, I realized I had an easier deal. My husband couldn't take a break unless the baby was sleeping. He was exhausted from constantly watching for safety issues, choking hazards, making baby food, feeding, playing, reading stories, and walking the floor when our son was teething or had cramps. We both did night duty, so we were both tired, but he had no let up. He loved being a stay-at-home dad, but once our younger two started school, he was also rather relieved. He said, "I wouldn't have missed those years for the world, but I never ever want to do them again." Parenting alone with small kids is a job, and a stressful one at that. Why does your job deserve a hobby fun, but hers does not? Your wife deserves money she can save up and spend on a gift for her friend. Money she doesn't need your permission to spend, just as you don't ask her permission to spend your hobby money. If you don't see that, and clearly you don't, then it means you don't recognize her work and the efforts she put into the job of raising your children as having any value. You're essentially saying you don't see it as work. If I were your wife, I'd not only be angry, but I'd also feel completely demeaned. Shame on you. Most definitely you're the a-hole. Opie said that the best friend has covered his wife's portion of the rent on 2 separate occasions. How the heck does that work if his wife is a stay-at-home mom with no income? And even if she does have some sort of income, maybe an online presence, or she does some type of freelance work online or whatever, why would Opie ever let someone else cover his wife's portion of the rent? It makes zero sense. 100% agree that the Opie is the a-hole. Every single element of this post, and Opie's reply just reek of it. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting my disabled cousin at my wedding? I, 26 female, am getting married soon to my amazing fiancé Liam, 30 male, and I'm struggling with whether or not to invite my cousin Tom, 29 male. Tom has a developmental disability, and while he is almost 30, he has the intellectual capacity of about a 7-year-old. I've always tried to be patient and understanding, but he has consistently crossed physical boundaries with me in ways that make me really uncomfortable. I've always been an early bloomer and have a larger than average chest. Because of the sports I did in high school and continue to this day, I would say I'm in good shape. I only mention this because it's often the reason my family uses to justify Tom's behavior. Over the years, Tom has touched my chest and butt quite a few times. He's also hugged me tightly and tried to kiss me, and even though I immediately told him to stop each time, it never seems to stick. He tells his caretakers, nurses, and even live-in caregivers that I'm his girlfriend. He doesn't like Liam because he insists Liam isn't my fiancé, believing instead that he is my boyfriend. Tom also talks about how he will marry me. It kind of feels like when a little kid tells their parent they're going to marry them, but it's still very uncomfortable. I've brought this up with my family, but they always downplay it, saying Tom doesn't understand and that he's just showing affection. The excuse they most often use is, he's a little boy in a man's body, and you're a conventionally attractive woman. When I told my mom how uncomfortable it makes me, she said I probably entertained his behavior too much, and that is harmless. She insists I should just be firm, but anytime I've tried, the family accuses me of being mean to him. With my wedding coming up, I want the day to be relaxed and special without constantly worrying about Tom overstepping boundaries. When I told my family that I was considering not inviting him, they were outraged. They said I was being unfair, cruel, and that he'd be devastated not to come. My mom even said it would ruin his day and make it obvious that he's different, which she thinks is heartless. I understand that Tom can't help certain behaviors, but I feel like my family has completely ignored my feelings on this. They always brush off my discomfort and say it's my responsibility to manage it, or that he doesn't know any better. But it's my wedding, and I don't want to be on edge the whole time. Liam says I have every right not to invite him, especially because of how he treats both of us, as though our relationship isn't real. Still, I wonder if I'm being too harsh or unkind, since Tom isn't fully aware of boundaries and doesn't really know what he's doing is bad or harmful, especially because his parents and other family members encourage it. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. If he is a little boy in a man's body, there should be no problem finding someone to look after him. The fact they say you probably entertain him and that this would ruin his day is a hill I would die on. It's not his day, and they have been enabling his behavior for too long. If he can't help his behavior because of his disability, he should have a caretaker that looks after him. He does have caretakers. And my family doesn't like my fiancé because he stepped in between me and my cousin and yelled at him until he cried. You should have eloped. It sounds like the only one on your side is your fiancé. My grandparents are supportive. Both of them are in their late 70s and I didn't elope because they wanted to watch me get married. My grandfather is walking me down the aisle and I'm wearing my grandmother's wedding dress. Can you take your grandparents with you when you elope so they are part of your special day? It sounds like you care too much about people who don't care about you. Make it a special day with your grandparents and forget everyone else. This could also keep you from wasting a ton of money on an event that is just going to make you anxious. My grandparents couldn't stop Tom, but he isn't allowed in their house. I think the first time I saw my granddad cry was the day that I told him Tom had been touching me. I was 13, and he just held me and apologized over and over for not noticing. My grandma has threatened to go after Tom with a rolling pin if he comes in her house again. They're the only two family members who have never made excuses for him. The thing is, both of them are unable to travel long distances. They're getting older, and would it be able to come if I eloped? Am I the a-hole for making my mother-in-law cry? Plus updates. Original post. I, 23 female, have been in a relationship with Andrew, 26 male, for 3 years. We hit it off pretty quickly, and after a year, we moved in together. After a couple months of dating, he introduced me to some of his family members, including his mother, Nora, 60-ish female. She had raised him as a single mother, and she was very close to Andrew. She wasn't very warm towards me, but she wasn't rude either. The longer we were together, the more we would meet her, and she never warmed up to me. After a while, I realized she just didn't like me. And yes, I was disappointed, but I tried not to think about it too much. I had mentioned it to Andrew, and he said that's just how his mom behaved with his past girlfriends and that I shouldn't worry. On July 9th, Andrew and I organized a small get-together with Nora, his Aunt Melinda, Chris and Tiff, his cousins, and my mother Cindy. My fiancé and I wanted to announce my pregnancy as I am 4 months pregnant. When we gathered everyone and told them, they were ecstatic and congratulating us, except Nora. When we went to her, she hugged Andrew, congratulated him, and barely acknowledged me. I just walked away because I knew they would start talking and Nora exclude me from the conversation. And I went towards Andrew's cousins, who I'm close to. We talked about the baby's gender. We wanted it to be a surprise, how I would decorate the baby's room. Normal baby chatter. I was with the cousins, but I was still within earshot of Andrew and Nora, and noticed that she was excitedly talking about how she would take such good care of the baby because she has always been a mom at heart. I'm not going to lie. I probably overthink, but the last comment angered me. She kept talking like I wasn't in the picture. By the end of the get-together, I was mad, and waited until she left to go to talk to Andrew. I told him I thought her comments are weird, and that considering she's never liked me, it just feels like she thinks she's going to replace me. Andrew just said that she wants to be hands-on grandmother as it's her first grandbaby, and that is not that deep. Yesterday, July 15th, Tiff sent me a message asking me if I knew that Nora was telling her church people that she was being blessed and she would welcome a baby in her life, because God could see how much love she had to give back, and that she would name it after her grandmother, and just a bunch of nonsense. I told Andrew what I knew, and he finally acknowledged how weird and creepy her lies were, and he called her to set things straight. He told me she started crying, and that I felt bad, but I feel like she's just plain crazy and is trying to guilt trip him. I sent her a message that as long as she can't accept that I am the child's mother and to respect me, she won't be the child's life. Melinda said I went way too far and that I have no business attacking her faith, which I don't believe I ever did. So am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the updates. Not the a-hole. You didn't make anyone cry. Your boyfriend told it like it is, and she got upset. That's her problem. Good news? He's on your side and up to dealing with his mother. That's as it should be. Melinda and anyone else can step off. I was so worried he would downplay it again when I told him, but he just couldn't believe it, and immediately confronted his mother about her poor behavior. So I'm glad. Not today, Hall. I'd never leave her alone with your baby because she might take it and disappear. I don't think I'd ever feel comfortable leaving my child with this woman, but I'm very worried that unless we cut contact with her, she could do something very dangerous, like claiming she's supposed to pick up my child from school. In a situation like that, just make sure the school knows she is not authorized to pick up your child. Same for daycare/childcare. I'm trying to figure out when you attacked her faith. Not stay home. Telling her to back off and setting boundaries is not attacking someone's faith. The lady's crazy. The faith bit really confused me. Just because she said those insane lies in church doesn't mean I should respect it. Thanks. Edit. Thank you for all your replies. I read it all and really appreciate you guys taking the time to answer. I talked to Andrew about couples counseling and he doesn't seem enchanted, but he said if it makes me feel more secure, he'll do it. Nora's been flooding his phone all day saying everything is a misunderstanding, and that I'm twisting everything out of proportion because I'm a crazy hormonal pregnant lady. I will update if anything happens with her. And now for the update. Basically, after a scene on the phone with my fiancé, she spammed his phone with texts saying I'm crazy hormonal pregnant lady, and then she went very quiet. He didn't block her, she just stopped texting. This morning she showed up. Fiancé was at work and she knew that, claiming she deserved an explanation for how she was being treated. That she only had a baby's best interests at heart, and that trying to stop that would be going against my child and being a bad parent. I told her that I was done taking her attitude, and that she isn't the victim, and that she was delusional for thinking she could treat me poorly and still be around my baby. Thank you to the users commenting that. You all really helped me see the situation clearly. Calling her delusional really upset her, and I knew she would just start her victim round, so I showed her out. I had let her as she doesn't have a key and never will. I called my fiancé before she would have a chance to do so and changed the entire narrative to make me the bad guy. I told him he either gets his mother in check or I will be going away until the baby is born because I am not dealing with the stress of having a crazy woman around. He said he understood and he went home early. Fiancé and his cousins are on my side, but of course his aunt and mother-in-law are the same. I blocked them both. Aunt kept sending messages telling me I need to apologize. Like someone recommended, we're going to put them on an info diet. Unless they apologize sincerely and there's a change in their behavior, which I highly doubt, they will not have access to my child and I will only let them know the bare minimum. I'm honestly not delusional enough to believe that this is the last of it, but I feel like I can take a break from them for the next few months. I'll update. Edit. Thank you everyone for the amazing amount of support. It's very heartwarming to read. There is some confusion regarding some stuff, so let me try to clear it up. I'm not married to dear husband. He's my fiancé. We always pushed the dates because of COVID and how hard it was to travel since my family isn't from the US. And surprise, surprise, just no mother-in-law had a problem with all our ideas. The person who let me know what she was saying in church is fiancé's cousin, who is also just no auntie-in-law's daughter. She's on my side because she knows me well, and she immediately realized the mother-in-law's conversation with the church was extremely off. After I kicked mother-in-law out, I talked with the dear husband for a while, explained to him everything in great detail regarding his mother's behavior, and he is very shocked and apologetic to have brushed it off in the past, so that's a huge relief. She asked mother-in-law to apologize, so she went completely silent and hasn't texted again. I'm thinking that the cousin might have talked to her mother, just no aunt-in-law, because she hasn't texted the fiancé either. So maybe hopefully she understands the issue. Well, that's weird. Why does she think she gets to decide what is in the best interest of the baby? Why is she telling people you attacked her faith? This is definitely the type of person you should back away from. None of this makes sense. People don't just wake up one morning and start acting like this. There is probably more to her behavior that your fiancé believed was normal in the past. No clue. Most of our interaction was cold, so the sudden interest in my child really rubs me the wrong way. This is not uncommon with the mother-in-laws we hear about on the sub. They tend to completely ignore things they don't want to acknowledge, such as the existence of their daughter-in-laws. If you look at the sticky comments on your post, you will see a link to the book list for the sub, and there's also a list of common abbreviations used here. Take a look at the books. Some of them will probably help you identify the patterns in mother-in-law's behavior. It can really help the situation if your significant other sees that a neutral expert identifies these behaviors as crossing normal boundaries. She is delusional. She immediately decided that she is raising your baby and you are not in the picture. She told her church family that God is giving her a baby. I assume through immaculate reception. She is demanding you apologize for existing? Yikes. I am so sorry. I would move in with family for the pregnancy or at least a few months. Significant other needs to agree to counseling because he doesn't think a mother that hates all his significant others and states she is going to raise your child, did she even mention him in this, is a problem, and you should just live your entire life fighting off his mom. He needs to understand that a dad and grandmother are optional equipment for little one while their actual mom isn't. If just no mother-in-law or his family sends flying monkeys, you can tell them something like, she told her family in church that God was providing a child for her to raise by herself. She was explicit that I would not be around my own child. I am not going to be close to someone who would prefer I don't exist. I would change your passwords everywhere. Tell the nurses your just no mother-in-law is a danger, and they need to watch out for her, and register as a private patient when you deliver. If you were my relative, I would be digging a moat for you, but check your zoning laws. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my husband's mom nap in my room? My husband's mom moved in with us a week ago. The minute we were informed she was going to move in, temporarily till her house gets renovated, we've emptied a room specifically for her. It has everything. A bed with a frame, curtains, mounted TV, wardrobe, etc. She was thrilled with it and loved it a lot. Then one day I came home and found her in my bedroom sleeping and minded my husband's bed. I was confused, but she told me she took a nap on the bed and lost track of time. Since then, She started talking about how she loved to nap there and started hinting wanting to take naps in the bedroom from now on. I kept ignoring her comments, till my husband sat me down and told me that his mom really liked and got used to napping in our bedroom, and we should just let her have her daily afternoon nap in the room. I said absolutely not, and we started debating. I told him his mom is being ridiculous because she has a whole room upstairs where she should nap. He got upset and said that I was making his mom feel uncomfortable and unwelcome with this attitude. I said no and refused to negotiate. He called me selfish and mean for saying no and preventing his mom from feeling comfortable at his house. But I reminded him that I pay full mortgage for the house, while he blows money over gadgets and consoles. He accused me of bringing old disagreements in this current conflict to use against him. I said no again, and that he should stop pushing because I need a room for when I get home feeling exhausted from working on my feet from 6 a.m. He's refusing to speak to me till I agree and let his mom have her nap in there. Am I the a-hole for choosing this hill to die on as he says? Am I being difficult? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Why is she so obsessed with sleeping where you and her son copulate? This is the comment I was looking for. It's disgusting that she wants to lay in the bed where her son does it. Like I would have said that right away when they asked why she couldn't sleep in there. Because that's our space. That's where we do our thing. Crude as she may find it worded that way, it's still the truth. That is what I was coming here to say. Why in the world would she want to sleep in that bed, and why does husband not see how odd that is? Maybe Opie should just get crass with it and ask this exact question. Most valid one. Not stay home. Your problem is not with a mother-in-law. I think you already know that it's with your husband. He needs to support you in your dealings with his family. But instead of doing that, he is making the situation worse. You're already hosting his mother. She's lucky enough to have her own room when most people don't even have spare rooms. If there is a problem with her room, your husband needs to fix it so she is comfortable. But she cannot take over your room. Your room is private and off limits. Sometimes people show us who they are. Your husband is not only behaving destructively by refusing to support you and creating unnecessary drama, he's not speaking to you like he's in high school. He's being very immature. I don't likely recommend counseling because it's expensive and hard to find a good counselor, but he won't listen to you. So I think you need it at this point. Maybe a third party can get through to him. What he is doing is damaging your relationship. What I love most was these statements. Opie's husband, this is my house, what I say goes. Opie, I'm the one who pays the full mortgage while you blow your money. Opie's husband, stop bringing this up. Like he's the one who brought it up by claiming it's his house. Opie, tell your husband and his mother that if they can't respect your boundaries, then they both sleep in the spare room together, or they both can leave and go shack in a hotel until her house is fixed. This is creepy behavior from the mother. And your husband is showing you that he'll have his mother's side over you anytime there is argument. Do you have some sort of fancy bed or just a plain old mattress? If you have one of those memory foam or similar, I kind of understand why she would want to stay in there as her room's mattress is just a plain normal one. Still creepy though. Wonder if she sniffs the sheets to smell her son. Gross. Not stay home at all and do what everyone's saying by asking her why she wants to sleep where you and her son. Emphasize this part. Do it with his wife. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for smiling while my mother-in-law scolded my husband for poking my belly and saying it was like dough? I gave birth to our first child 3 weeks ago and my body hasn't snapped back yet. I definitely feel insecure about it, to the point where I won't even change in front of my husband anymore. Yesterday, I was laying down on him, and my top rode up so you could see my belly slightly. He stroked it and then poked it, and made a comment about how my belly was like dough. I know my reaction was irrational, but I burst into tears. My in-laws were there and my mother-in-law was furious with my husband, and she started scolding him for not being careful with his words. My husband tried to defend himself, but my mother-in-law kept telling him off. I started smiling and my husband got upset with me for being happy he was getting into trouble. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. First of all, your reaction was not irrational at all. What your husband said was mean under any circumstances, but particularly given that you just gave birth. Second of all, you were not smiling because he was getting in trouble. You were smiling because someone was being kind to you and standing up for you. The fact that your husband's takeaway from this situation is being upset that he got in trouble rather than being apologetic for his comment suggests that he is immature and not a very good partner. I'm glad that your mother-in-law had your back. Also, OP, you gave birth to a human. 3 weeks is nothing. And honestly, if your body's never exactly the same again, that's okay. You did something amazing. Take it easy on yourself. P.S. I've had 3 kids and been married 12 plus years. And my husband has never made a negative comment about my body. Your husband deserved more than a scolding. Exactly. I would have poked him back and said, I just had a baby. What's your excuse? It's nice to hear when mother-in-laws and daughter-in-laws get along very well, especially on this forum since it's quite the opposite. But am I the only one who would feel weirded out doing PDA stuff in front of the parents? It wasn't really PDA. I was trying to have a nap and that's the only way I can fall asleep. Not stay home. Mother-in-law loves you and doesn't like seeing you hurt. Your husband crossed the line even if it was a joke. This isn't a joke. It's, oh, they're upset. So I better label it as a joke so I can tell them to lighten up or stop being hysterical. I feel like it was more intended as a joke, but didn't go as planned. It's more of him just not thinking before he speaks. My dad does this kind of nonsense to my mom. He always tries to play it off as a joke or something he didn't quite think about. But it's pretty obvious after a while that they're not actually jokes. They're intentional slights. Seems like maybe the mother-in-law thinks he might be that kind of person. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife she needs to find another job? Me 26 male and my wife 24 female have been married for 4 years. During those 4 years, she had the same job which requires her to be away Friday to Sunday. So she leaves early on Friday and returns about 4 to 5 p.m. on Sunday. Occasionally, it would be leaving on Saturday and returning Sunday. She also has to work some of the school/public holidays. I work full-time and get just a bit above minimum wage and tips. So our bills are split 60 her to 40 me. While I find myself struggling with money and having to borrow from the joint bank account, my wife never have this problem. I know she is getting paid more than I do as she works for a high-profile client, but I'm not sure by how much more. She also wouldn't tell me what exactly she is doing. All I know is that it is connected to her degree and it is 100% not erotic work or nothing in that industry. The reason why she won't tell me is because she signed a contract, and it is highly confidential, so she is not allowed to go into details. She does chores around the house but doesn't cook. She admits herself she is a bad cook and hates it. Instead, she would order either those pre-made healthy meals she then heat up for herself or take away. When I'm home and she hasn't ordered, she will order for me too. So most of the day while I'm working, she's either in our house chilling, watching TV, playing video games, reading or exercising, or shopping or in the gym. Over the years, I got annoyed with this and have asked her to find another job so she has something to do while I'm working instead of wasting her day. She told me she is not wasting her day, but relaxing, and her job pays her enough so she can afford the lifestyle she wants. I said it is not fair on me, as I come home tired while she has done nothing all day. To which she said I can find another job or a different job, but I am an a-hole for wanting her to find another job because I feel tired when coming back from work, when she has already got a job she loves. After this, she won't talk to me. I have spoken to my family, and while my parents agree with me that she needs to work, my sisters took my wife's side and called me a massive a-hole. Edit, I'm not saying she needs to quit the job she has. I'm saying she needs to find another job to do during her free time. Could be a part-time one, since she doesn't really do much during the day. Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole. You have no right to make your wife leave her clearly very good job just because you feel it's unfair to you. She gets paid well and gets to relax, but you'd rather she suffer working the same way you suffer than you having financial security. If it bothers you this much, how about you start looking for another job that pays more and demands less? Edit. OP, your edit that she needs to find a second job doesn't make this any better. In fact, it makes it worse. You're the a-hole. The only person who needs another job is you, so you can actually pay your half of the bills. So you want her to work 2 jobs and be tired because you work one and you're tired? How is that even remotely fair? You're the a-hole. Opie would have hated me. I saved up a bunch of money and lived off of it because I could. I only did my fair share of the housework because I paid my share of the bills. Why would I do more just because I have more free time? I paid for that time, and Opie is an entitled jerk. YTA. Your reason for wanting her to do is just because you feel jealous and emasculated. I am suffering, therefore she must suffer too, so I don't feel as bad. This is exactly how it reads. Opie is jealous she has days each week to live her life. He wants to force her into long, hard minimum wage labor just like he does. Girl has found peace and balance. Opie should be striving to be like her. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for urging my husband to go to work despite him having an upset stomach? My husband is your typical man flu guy who wants to be babied if he gets a small sniffle. Love him to death, and he is truly a fantastic person all the way around. But it's like a war zone in my house whenever he feels even remotely ill. Like even a small headache, he starts going off. Last night, he ate a bunch of ice cream. He is lactose sensitive, and due to this, he is feeling it today. He has an upset stomach and immediately started whining the second he woke up. His whining is like him groaning really loud, almost like he wants that to be the only thing you can hear. Heavily sighing kind of sounds like a toddler who is mad for not getting their way. So he was doing that and almost immediately following, starts asking me to cater to him. Fetch him ice water, run a cool shower, get him a towel, help him get motivated, etc. I don't have the time, energy, or patience for this today, especially knowing he caused it. We have 3 children who I need to tend to, a farm to run, multiple dogs to feed, and I work from home today and it's already 107 degrees and it's only 8 a.m. I don't have it in me to cater to him on top of it all. So he starts talking about taking the day off from work, and I told him he should go in and feel it out and see how he feels throughout the day. I said this after he told me he felt a bit better after a cold shower. I convinced him that maybe he wasn't drinking enough water. Anyways, by the end of it and lots of convincing later, he leaves for work. For all wondering, yes, it's just because of the lactose sensitivity. We made sure, as we have rapid tests on hand. So he leaves, but calls me about 20 minutes ago and was like, "You just didn't want to deal with me at the house. That's it, right?" So I was honest and told him I had far too much to do today. So catering to him like he would fully expect had he stayed home would put far too much on my shoulders. And I wasn't willing to run myself on empty today. This is my only somewhat down day in comparison to other days, because I volunteer at the soup kitchen, run a charity program with the church, and I also lend a farmhand to other neighbors. So today was the only day I didn't have to do those extras and could focus on my work, farm, and kids. He says I'm an a-hole because I'm choosing to make him feel terrible and make him go to work, just because I didn't want to deal with it. I reminded him it was his fault he felt like that anyhow, and I'm not his mother. So if he wanted to stay home, he could tend to himself because I wasn't doing it today. He hung up but stayed at work. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. It was entirely self-inflicted, like a hangover after drinking too much. Had he stayed home, I'd have recommended just getting on with your day as normal, as if he wasn't even there. Maybe it would have been good to see what you normally do every day, since it sounds like he may not respect it if he wants to be child number 4 when he's a little ill. This. If you get struck down with an actual illness like the flu, I get asking for help. I've had relatives drop off medicine or whatever. But if you caused your own problem, no one else should be obligated to do anything about it. Honestly, I've never needed my husband to take care of me when I was actually sick, like making good friends with a toilet sick or migraine sick. The most I've asked is for him to take over childcare, and if he wasn't busy, get an ice pack or some medicine. Both things I would do entirely on my own, even when it feels like someone's put an ice pick through my eye and keeps hammering it. Not the a-hole. First off, I hate the man cold trope. I'm not arguing if it exists. Clearly you've shown it does here. It just drives me nuts. Because I'm the type who is stubborn and refuses to be taken care of, even when I can barely walk due to being sick. Yet I've still gotten comments about having a man cold and whining unnecessary. Secondly, he brought it entirely on himself. He wants to be treated like an adult? He should act like one. That means making better decisions. If you struggled with lactose, don't eat a ton of ice cream. Problem solved. And having accountability for your own actions. He needs to grow up big time. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting my husband's other child in my house? My husband cheated on me while I was pregnant and had a baby with another woman. I found out after the other child was born. I've never been okay with this. It's exactly the kind of trash I tried so hard to have not be part of my life. If it was possible, I would have divorced him by now. But I'm stuck at a legal dead end and it's not possible. We have a legal and emotional separation agreement though. Since he travels a lot in between the baby, my parents, and my career, I've been able to avoid thinking too much about it. Well, so I thought. It's been almost 2 years since then, and now he wants to bring that child into my house. I guess he has some kind of schedule with the other child's mother that includes visits, and he wants that visitation to be in what is technically still his residence. Absolutely not. I'm not a stepmother to any child, and unlike in most of these situations, the house we're living in is truly only mine. It's under my parents' names, but I got it when I got power of attorney and they had to go into a care home. I'm not having his kid in it. My husband and our family say that I need to deal with it, because I am still married, that I need to accept my stepchild, and that I'm a witch for excluding a baby and preventing siblings from having a relationship. I don't agree. This child may technically be siblings to mine, but I don't need to play mom to this kid to make a relationship happen. And I don't want any of this trash coming into mine or my child's safe space. Am I crazy for not wanting this child here? Edit. Why can't you get divorced? Why is he still living there? In my state, to file for divorce, both parties need to have been separated for over a year and living in separate residences, which requires one of us to move out. He doesn't want a divorce, so of course he won't move out. I can't make him because we're still married. In theory, I could move out and start the clock, but realistically, I can't. With a POA, I can't just abandon the house. I couldn't afford to anyway, but if I did, he would be able to remain there. I would eventually get the house back, but in the meantime, he could easily destroy it and then I'd have legal problems from that. To clarify on the separation agreement, those don't technically exist in my state. But since we have it notarized, we could use it as an interim agreement on custody and a split on finances once the clock starts, and especially post-filing. Edit 2. Adultery/at fault. I can file based on adultery. I don't really want to go that route because it would turn the entire situation very hostile very quickly. And I would still have to have him living here until we could get a court date, which could easily be months and months in the future anyway. I realize it already seems as hostile as possible right now. But day-to-day things are civil in a way that it wouldn't be if I did that. I'm also not confident that it wouldn't look bad because I would have waited 2 years after knowing about it to do anything. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. This may not be a popular opinion since most on here say you have to be a perfect step-parent and accept all situations. But you are not at all the a-hole. I was in a similar situation and still angry 30 years later. Don't let people tell you what to do or how you feel. It is your house. Tell the father to go someplace else. Also, typically, the partner is aware of the spouse having a kid prior to moving/getting married. It's that parent that tells their partner they don't want anything to do with the kid in question is different as they knew before. So now they have to live with it as it was always part of the deal. This situation is different. She doesn't even want to be in a relationship with a father. It's exactly like all the other stories that we saw recently where the OP is divorced, and the ex want the OP to take care of the step/half-siblings for a weekend or something. And each time, the OP is not a-hole. The only difference is that she is stuck living with the other parent. And the other parent is using legal loopholes to stay there and stay married, twisting OP's hand as it is. Get a lawyer. A good one. He will bring this other child. You need a lawyer to evict him. A lot of people who share a residence go through divorce. It shouldn't be this hard without another way out. Get a lawyer and file for divorce and evict him. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for teaching my children Spanish without asking my husband to be permission? I've been seeing Mike, 40, for 3 years now and we are planning on getting married soon and have moved in together a few weeks ago. Mike has 2 children with his first wife who apparently left them when the kids were little. His children are Katie, female 12, and Seb, male 11. Katie and Seb's mom was from Nicaragua who moved to the US where she met Mike. I don't know why, but the children were never taught Spanish, only English. I met Mike in the UK where I live, although I am originally from Spain. In school, they learned bits of French, but no Spanish. Here's the thing. Katie came over to me and asked me if I could teach them some Spanish, and I said absolutely. And we asked if Seb wanted to join us and he was up for it. I was excited. It means that the kids could learn their mother's language, possibly try and get in touch with their maternal side of the family when they're older. They don't have contact with them now and Mike said they all live in Nicaragua. And they could potentially form a stronger bond with my parents. Their future step-grandparents as my parents speak poor English. We typically have a clear understanding of who handles what with kids. We've had plenty of discussions of what my role is and what he doesn't want me to do, etc. But frankly, I didn't think something as simple as teaching them language needed a discussion. It was just a fun activity we did. Simple things like pointing at things and telling them words or asking them. Teaching them sentences. We've only been doing it a short while, so it's basic stuff. I thought I'd mentioned it to Mike. But either I forgot or he hadn't listened, but he swears he didn't know. One day he heard me correcting Katie's conjugation and he got really angry. He asked me what I was doing. Before I had a chance of saying anything, very excited Katie chimed in saying that she's learning Spanish and asking if he wants to learn it with her. Mike said no and sent her to her room. He argued with me that I had no right to teach them Spanish and I should have consulted him first. I told him I didn't think it would be much of a problem as the chance of them having it in school was 50-50 anyway, and they asked me to help them. He told me I overstepped the boundaries. He explicitly forbade me from speaking to kids in Spanish. I tried to understand why it was such a problem and ask him, but he told me to stop asking, said the topic was finished and tried to leave. I asked what he was hiding and he called me a witch, an a-hole and some other names. This was the first time he ever insulted me in any way, shape or form. He apologized later that day and said he didn't appreciate me teaching them things like that and asked me to please drop the subject. I talked with my friends, and some say I wasn't the a-hole, but some say that I should have asked him first and not teach kids anything without his permission. And I'm confused. Am I the a-hole for teaching them Spanish? Not the a-hole. There are two large problems here that I see and I think you heavily need to consider before marrying this man. 1. He is extremely controlling over things which do not matter and overreacts. If this was an actual thing that really affecting his children, I'd understand, but you are not. Even if he apologized later, his initial response should be a huge, giant, neon red flag. 2. He has forbidden you from speaking Spanish, which is a very blatant attempt to erase your language and culture from the household. You will never be able to be your own person around him, only the person he wants you to be. It's worrying for the kids. It absolutely is. But Opie is not married to him, so the truth of the matter is that they are not her children. There was nothing she can do but get herself out, unfortunately. Not the a-hole. The kids ask you, and there was no reason you would have had any reason to suspect that it would be a problem. It's a totally normal thing to do, and teaching a language is a great way to connect and bond with the kids, especially if they want you to. Based on the info you gave about your fiancé's history, I suspect the Spanish language is a sore spot for him because of his ex. But there's no way you could have known that, and his reaction was awful. Not the a-hole. I agree with your comment, however, he's gonna suck it up because he married a person from Spain. Like, and what if they have kids? She can't teach them Spanish either? I feel like his reaction was very over the top.